Hi there, my name is Tanisi Pooran and I'm a transformation partner at The Ready. I'm here today to answer a question from one of our newsletter subscribers. So first I'll read the question out and then we can talk through some ideas of how to tackle this problem around prioritization. So the question reads, it's easier to prioritize when you have dollar value decisions to make, but less so with decisions where the key differentiator is the impact on customer or employee experience. How do the best teams prioritize initiatives based on softer criteria? It can feel easier to prioritize projects that have a clear dollar value, but your team or organization may be missing out on opportunities to be more effective or more resilient, which I'm guessing you already know because you asked this really great question. Your team might know something is important, but it can be hard to show others who are less close to the work the real importance of why this initiative should be prioritized. So you can start with a couple of different moves. Where I like to start first is doing a little bit of worst case scenario planning. Think about what could go wrong. What would be the absolute worst case scenario if you didn't prioritize, for example, customer experience or a particular part of customer experience? What would happen if you decided to only prioritize initiatives or projects that had a clear dollar value? What would you be missing out on, or what would make it harder to do? Then try doing the opposite. What would happen if you were actually able to prioritize your customer experience or prioritize some key aspects of employee experience? What would be different if we put resources into prioritizing these things that may have softer criteria? What value are we earning as a team or as a company beyond that dollar amount? Remember, you're not trying to see the future or get the perfect scenario. You're taking time to ideate so you can understand where there might be some risks you're not seeing if you're overly focused or your team is overly focused on just prioritizing initiatives that have a clear dollar amount. You may also be missing out on some opportunities or metrics that actually do inform these initiatives and can help you prioritize. Just because something is a softer or less visible criteria doesn't mean it is less important. So going back to our worst and best case scenarios, notice the difference between what you have all imagined. Do you have a divergence across your team or across your organization about what the outcomes would be? Are there opportunities to experiment with what you can do in that middle space between the disaster scenario and your kind of perfect utopia? Ask yourself and your team, what do you want to move towards? What are you willing to risk if you do or don't prioritize these initiatives? Being really clear about trade-offs can help your team get out of the pattern of only prioritizing initiatives that have more immediate returns. This can be a time where you can experiment with doing something in a time-bound way. So you can, depending on your team's ways of working, you can just say, let's prioritize something for the next 8 or so weeks, and let's come back together and see what's different. You can also use the Ready's proposal template to share your hypothesis, any constraints that are good to know about, risk factors, and what metrics you will track, even if they are in that softer criteria zone. Think about things that you can track, like positive feedback from customers, or are your employees collaborating more, offering to help each other more when they're looking to tackle a problem? Is there something you can notice about the way your team interacts asynchronously or synchronously that can give you insight into an employee experience or a customer experience? You can do a bit more reflecting on some of these softer changes by asking questions at a regular meeting or having what we call a habit review, where you ask the same question as a team week after week or on a regular cycle to understand patterns that you're noticing. So again, they may not have the same hard and fast outcomes of dollar amounts, but they can help us understand patterns and see the returns we're getting when we prioritize some initiatives that have these softer criteria. So do you notice that your employees are more effective? Are they getting work done in a way that is more collaborative and more innovative? Are you seeing different interactions with your customer base. This can be a great signal to keep doing what you're doing or to shift gears and try something new. Now, you may find that as you start to talk about what you're prioritizing as a team, that disagreement comes up. Rather than seeing this as a roadblock to prioritization, try to use your disagreement as a way to be more generative, more creative, and more innovative with both how you prioritize and what you do in your projects and initiatives. So the Ready has a framework for generative disagreement called principled disagreement, and it helps teams and individuals shape how they approach and receive disagreement in a way that is based on their shared values or shared outcomes as a team or organization. So let's say one of your values is to create a better customer experience or to ensure that your teams feel psychologically safe enough to uh, raise new ideas and make proposals. Try starting your conversations around prioritization off by grounding in your shared values or your shared outcomes. Whether it's focused on a particular project or the team itself, you can use these outcomes to prioritize what initiatives you'll go after. Another practice that I like to use when I'm trying to figure out what to prioritize, both internally at the Ready and with the clients I work with, is also from principal disagreement. And it's a scale to figure out, am I moving towards something that I want, or am I moving toward away from something that I don't want? So this practice can help us understand if we're moving towards the things we do want, like innovation, greater customer satisfaction, teams with higher trust, or is it moving me away from something I don't want, which could be something like avoiding tricky conversations about where to put resources, or maybe we want to avoid disagreement or push back against our ideas because it can be uncomfortable or it can feel like we're not doing the work that we need to do. So remember, disagreement and differing ideas when we're talking about prioritization and what we're investing in can actually give us key information to make better decisions and do better work. You can't prioritize everything, but being super clear about what you value and what outcomes you're after and the time horizon that you're prioritizing within can be really helpful in prioritizing what matters to you most and not just the things that have the maybe clearest criteria. This can be an opportunity to look at your priorities in the shorter and longer term and decide what's important to you. Many initiatives and projects that have softer criteria, we see the benefits in a longer term horizon. So being clear from the beginning that we may not see those immediate returns, but we're still willing to invest in this initiative because we are committed to a certain outcome or it's very aligned with our values and our principles. Lastly, many of us often assume that there isn't a business case for initiatives or projects that have softer criteria. But research shows that teams that are inclusive or psychologically safe, or teams that really focus on employee and customer experience, are higher performing teams. For example, if we put resources and time into the employee experience, our organization may see less employee turnover, which saves valuable resources in the long run. I think whatever you do is to keep experimenting and keep talking with your team about what you're prioritizing and why you're prioritizing it. If you're not clear about the trade-offs you're making, it can be really easy to just go to the projects that have a clear dollar value and miss out on valuable opportunities in those initiatives and projects that can change the way you work and make it a better environment for your team and for your customers.